You've heard of the Amazon. You've seen flamingos, toucans, maybe even a bald eagle or two. But there's a place deeper, louder, and stranger, where the birds don't just fly, they vanish into the leaves. They sigh instead of quack. And some look like they're heading to a jungle disco. Welcome to the Congo Basin. It's the second largest rainforest on Earth, and it's home to birds so rare, so weird, and so dazzling, most people don't even know they exist. Fun fact, there's a bird here called Shelley's crimsonwing. It's so elusive, scientists spent years looking for it and still have barely any photos. One biologist even said, it's like the Bigfoot of birds, but red. And that's just the beginning. In the next few minutes, we're going to meet 15 birds found nowhere else on Earth. Some are beautiful, some are bizarre, some are just beautifully bizarre. So buckle up, because once you've seen what's hiding in the Congo, your local pigeon might never impress you again. Meet the Congo Peafowl. A bird so rare, it's basically the unicorn of African forests, except it's real and walks like a chicken, and it's the national bird of the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Even though most Congolese people have never actually seen one, this elusive peafowl lives deep in the dense, humid jungles of the Congo Basin. You know how Indian peacocks love to flaunt their tail feathers? Well, the Congo peafowl isn't here to impress anyone. No flashy feathers, no dramatic fan displays, just a subtle mix of dark blues and greens and a vibe that says, I'm rare. That's enough. Scientifically, it's a big deal. Why? Because it's the only member of its genus, Afropabo, and it's believed to be the evolutionary missing link between peafowls and junglefowls. A kind of feathered bridge between peacocks and wild chickens. So yeah, if birds had Ancestry.com, this one would blow up the family tree. Behavior-wise, the Congo peafowl is shy, secretive, and mostly ground-dwelling. They forage for fruit, insects, and seeds, and avoid humans like we're the plague, which, to be fair, we kind of are. Fun fact, it wasn't even officially discovered by science until 1936. Despite being a national symbol. That's like discovering your country's mascot lives in your backyard, 50 years late. Sadly, due to deforestation and bushmeat hunting, the Congo peafowl is now listed as vulnerable on the IUCN Red List. Spotting one in the wild today is next to impossible, but that's what makes it legendary. A peafowl that doesn't show off, doesn't make a fuss, and still manages to be one of the rarest birds on the planet. Some birds are rare. Shelley's crimson wing is legendary. If you Google it, you'll probably find the same two blurry photos and a bunch of scientists shrugging. This bird is so elusive, it's often called the ghost of the African rainforest. And unlike most ghosts, it's not white, it's red. Bright, bold, ruby red. Native to the Albertine Rift region, which includes the eastern Congo rainforest, this tiny bird belongs to a group of finches known as seed crackers. But this one? Hardly anyone has cracked the code to even find it, let alone study it. Shelley's crimson wing lives in high-altitude montane forests, often near bamboo thickets and dense undergrowth. It flits through the shadows, staying low to the ground, avoiding cameras, binoculars, and probably eye contact. Fun fact, in some areas, this bird hasn't been seen in decades. Entire field surveys have turned up nothing. It's so rare, researchers once debated if it was extinct, until someone randomly spotted one for like 5 seconds. And just when you think, maybe we imagined it, someone hears its sharp metallic call echoing faintly through the trees, almost like it's saying, still here. Nice try. Shelley's crimson wing is currently listed as vulnerable on the IUCN Red List. Its population is declining, mostly due to habitat loss from logging and agriculture. And because it's so hard to find, conservation is tricky. You can't save what you can't study. But that mystery, that's exactly what keeps birders obsessed. Because somewhere, in the misty green shadows of the Congo, a flash of red still flickers. And that tiny flicker is enough to keep the legend alive. If you've ever lost your green socks in the grass, you already understand this bird. Grauer's broadbill is nature's version of stealth mode. It doesn't just blend in with the forest, it becomes the forest. With vibrant green plumage, this bird is nearly impossible to spot against the mossy leaves of Congo's mountain jungles. Found only in a narrow stretch of the Albertine Rift, including the high-altitude forests of eastern Congo, this species is one of the rarest and least studied birds in Africa. Seriously. Most of what we know comes from a few lucky field encounters and the occasional fuzzy photograph. It prefers cloud forest habitats full of epiphytes, fog, and trees that seem to drip water and mystery. It feeds on fruit and soft leaves, one of the few birds in the jungle that eats like a vegetarian monk. Behavior-wise, it's quiet, solitary, and nearly invisible. It moves slowly, perches silently, and is so well camouflaged that researchers have walked right past it without noticing. Fun fact, Grauer's broadbill was only officially described in 1908, and since then, sightings have been incredibly rare. Its population is believed to be very small, fragmented, and decreasing, but we can't say for sure because we can barely find it. It's currently listed as vulnerable on the IUCN Red List, mainly due to deforestation and political instability in its limited range. So if you ever find yourself hiking through the fog-drenched forests of eastern Congo and you catch a flicker of emerald in the corner of your eye, pause, because you may have just seen one of Africa's most secretive living jewels, and odds are it saw you first. Some birds hunt worms, some pick seeds, and some, like the blue-headed bee-eater, chase down stinging insects in midair. Just for fun. With a bright turquoise head, emerald green wings, cinnamon belly, and a long twin-tailed streamer, this bird looks like someone smashed 5 paint cans together and said, "Yes, that's the one." Found in the lowland rainforests of Central Africa, including the Congo Basin, the blue-headed bee-eater is built for aerial acrobatics. Its narrow wings and long tail make it incredibly agile in flight, zipping between tree canopies like a feathered fighter jet. And its diet? Mostly bees and wasps. Yes, this bird actively targets insects that sting. But before you gasp, here's the trick. It catches them, smacks them against a branch to disable the stinger, and then gulps them down like spicy candy. Fun fact, some individuals have been observed hovering midair just to line up the perfect strike, basically turning insect hunting into performance art. The blue-headed bee-eater isn't just flash and flare. It plays an important role in controlling insect populations in the rainforest. And since it nests in burrows dug into vertical earth banks, it also helps aerate the soil in some riverbank ecosystems. Chic and useful. Unfortunately, like many of Congo's forest birds, it faces threats from habitat loss and fragmentation. While it's not currently endangered, its range is shrinking as forests are cleared. And for a bird that needs wide open airspace under dense canopy, that's bad news. So if you ever find yourself deep in the Congo and you hear a sharp prrr tick overhead, look up. If you're lucky, you might spot a flash of turquoise, a double tail, and one fearless little hunter on its next high-speed mission. At first glance, the yellow-crested helmet shrike looks like a bird that flew headfirst into a costume party and then refused to leave. With jet black feathers, bright yellow eyes, and a spiky lemon-colored crest that sticks up like a feathered mohawk, this bird isn't trying to blend in. It's trying to make a statement. Found mostly in the lowland forests of Central Africa, including parts of the Congo Basin, the yellow-crested helmet shrike is more than just a flashy look. It's a highly social, vocal, and frankly, very opinionated bird. These birds travel in tight family groups, often 8 to 10 individuals, chattering constantly to each other with whistles, chirps, and squeaks. Imagine a bird version of a loud family road trip, but through the jungle canopy. And here's where it gets more interesting. They practice cooperative breeding. That means not just mom and dad raise the chicks, the entire group helps out. Siblings, cousins, aunties, everyone pitches in. Fun fact, helmet shrikes have been seen taking turns feeding chicks and standing guard. Basically, they invented the avian version of community daycare. Behaviorally, they're alert, curious, and will follow intruders, including humans, through the forest, calling loudly as if to say, "You're not from around here, are you?" Sadly, despite their teamwork, they can't outmaneuver habitat loss. The yellow-crested helmet shrike is now considered vulnerable, mostly due to deforestation and forest degradation in Central Africa. But if you're lucky enough to see a flash of yellow crest bobbing among the leaves, you're not just looking at one bird. You're witnessing a tiny, feathered society in motion. And trust us, they've already seen you first. The red-fronted parrot isn't loud. It doesn't dance, mimic phone ringtones, or scream hello like some of its flashier cousins. Instead, it prefers a quiet life, tucked away in the dense forests of Central Africa, minding its own business and its lifelong relationship. This parrot is a master of monogamy. Once it chooses a mate, that's it. Bonded for life. They forage together, roost side by side, and even preen each other's feathers daily. Talk about relationship goals. You'll find the red-fronted parrot in the humid forests of the Congo Basin and surrounding areas. Its green body blends well into the canopy, but it's the red patch on its forehead, hence the name, that gives it away. Not to mention its striking orange eyes, which always look like it's mildly judging you. Unlike many parrots, this species is actually quite shy in the wild. It stays high in the treetops and tends to avoid humans altogether. It's almost like it knows how noisy we are. Fun fact, though it's quiet in the wild, the red-fronted parrot is surprisingly vocal in captivity. Some individuals have been trained to mimic words and whistles, but only if they feel like it. They often don't. Diet-wise, they're into fruit, seeds, nuts, and the occasional bark. And thanks to their strong beaks, they can crack through shells most other birds wouldn't bother with. Right now, the red-fronted parrot isn't considered endangered, but habitat destruction and the illegal pet trade are rising concerns, especially as more forests are cleared and exotic birds are smuggled across borders. So if you ever see two green parrots cuddling quietly in the treetops, don't interrupt. They're probably having a romantic fruit brunch, and honestly, they're doing relationships better than most of us. This is probably the weirdest duck you've never heard of. Meet Hartlos duck, a bird that doesn't look like a duck, doesn't act like a duck, and, most confusingly of all, doesn't even quack like a duck. Native to the forest swamps and slow-moving rivers of Central and West Africa, including parts of the Congo Basin, Hartlos duck is a low-key resident of muddy places that most people, and even most researchers, never visit. It has a stocky body, dark brown plumage with iridescent green highlights, and a head shaped like it's wearing a tight leather helmet. This duck isn't out there showing off on ponds or waddling up to tourists for breadcrumbs. It's busy skulking around in overgrown marshes, dodging attention like it owes somebody money. Behaviorally, it's secretive and mostly nocturnal, making it hard to observe. And here's the twist. Instead of the classic quack, Hartlos duck produces a low, raspy wheezing sound. It's more of a sigh than a call. Think duck with existential dread. Fun fact, for years, scientists struggled to figure out where exactly this duck fit on the evolutionary tree. Some even proposed it deserved its own genus, and they were right. It's now the only member of Pteronetta, a unique genus all to itself. Unlike most ducks, Hartlos duck prefers forested wetlands and rarely flies unless it has to. It feeds on aquatic invertebrates, seeds, and fallen fruit, often foraging at dawn or dusk. Currently, it's not listed as endangered, but its habitat is rapidly disappearing due to logging, mining, and swamp drainage. So yes, it's rare, quiet, mysterious, and avoids humans. If this duck had a dating profile, it would read, introvert, loves wetlands, doesn't do small talk, please don't call me a mallard. Some birds are famous for how they look. The Enulangu rail is famous for how it sounds, specifically like a saxophone that just gave up. This bird is one of the most mysterious species in Central Africa. It lives deep in the swampy forests of the Congo Basin and surrounding regions. But good luck seeing one. It's rarely spotted and almost never photographed. Instead, researchers often hear it long before they see it, if they ever do. Its call is loud, eerie, and unmistakable, a long, drawn-out, wheezing trill that sounds like someone trying to start a broken sax. It usually calls at dusk or dawn, echoing through the rainforest like a jungle ghost. The Enulangu rail is part of the rail family, a group of ground-dwelling birds known for being shy and incredibly good at hiding. And this one, it takes hiding to Olympic levels. It has drab brown plumage, a long bill, and strong legs built for walking through dense vegetation. But despite being chicken-sized, it almost never shows itself. Even experienced ornithologists go entire field seasons without ever laying eyes on one. Fun fact, the species went virtually unstudied for decades. Most of what we know comes from scattered audio recordings and a few brief encounters. At one point, it was even rumored to be extinct, until someone caught its bizarre call on tape again. Its secretive lifestyle and limited habitat range make it vulnerable to environmental change. Deforestation, wetland destruction, and human encroachment could easily push it further into obscurity. But maybe that's part of its strategy. After all, if no one can find you, no one can mess with you. So the next time you're in a Congo swamp and hear what sounds like a dying instrument echo through the trees, don't panic. That's just the Enulangu rail doing its nightly jazz solo. Most birds migrate with some sense of order. They go north, they go south, they come back in spring. The African river martin, it just vanishes. No one's entirely sure where it breeds, where it winters, or even what it's up to half the year. And honestly, the bird's not telling. This mysterious little species shows up seasonally along rivers in the Congo and Gabon, often in huge flocks, sometimes tens of thousands strong. And then, just as suddenly as they appear, they're gone. It looks a bit like a swallow, glossy black with a slight green sheen, slightly forked tail, and a somewhat chunky body. But despite its harmless look, this bird has left a trail of unanswered questions since it was first described in the 1800s. Here's the wild part. We still don't know exactly where it nests. Researchers have theories, sandy riverbanks in remote parts of the Congo Basin, but no one has documented its full breeding cycle. In the age of GPS, drones, and satellite tracking, that's like Bigfoot raising a family in your backyard and no one noticing. Fun fact, the African river martin is the only species in its genus, Pseudochelidon, and is considered one of the most primitive swallows alive today, sort of a living fossil with wings. Despite its mystery, it plays an important role in controlling insect populations along waterways, feeding mostly on flying insects like flies and mosquitoes. It's not currently endangered, but its dependence on river habitats makes it vulnerable to dams, mining, and pollution, all growing issues in Central Africa. So if you're by a river in Congo one humid afternoon and you see a black cloud of birds sweeping through the sky, there's a chance you've just seen one of the greatest unsolved puzzles in African ornithology. And then, just like that, poof, they're gone again. If you think all eagles are massive soaring symbols of freedom, meet the Cassins hawk eagle, a raptor that says, "I may be small, but I will ruin your day." This eagle isn't interested in high mountain peaks or dramatic cliffside nests. Nope, it prefers the dense, tangled canopy of the Congo Basin, where it can hunt stealth, weaving between branches like a feathered ninja. Measuring just around 20 inches, 50 centimeters long, it's smaller than most hawks, but don't let that fool you. This bird is a specialist in surprise attacks. It preys on birds, squirrels, bats, even monkeys, using short bursts of speed and insane aerial control to strike before the target even knows what hit it. Its plumage is mottled brown and white, with piercing yellow eyes and broad, rounded wings built for maneuverability, not gliding. This isn't a showy bird. It's all business. Fun fact, Cassins' hawk eagle is so elusive, many field researchers go years without ever seeing one. Most records come from camera traps or prey remains. It's like the forest's own ghost predator, silent, fast, and gone before you can blink. And when it does call, it lets out a high-pitched scream that sounds more like a whistle being strangled. It's unsettling, exactly how a jungle ambush predator should sound. Currently, the Cassins hawk eagle is listed as near threatened, mainly due to habitat loss. Since it relies on pristine, mature forest, even small amounts of logging or road building can push it out. And unlike other raptors, it doesn't adapt well to open areas. So no, you're probably never going to see one. But if you're walking in the Congo and suddenly all the other birds go silent, there's a decent chance Cassins' hawk eagle is watching, and something nearby is about to have a very bad day. If birds had a fashion week, the white-crested tiger heron would open the show. Dramatic, moody, and wearing what looks like a white powdered wig, this rare and elusive heron haunts the swampy lowland forests of Central Africa, including the Congo Basin. It prefers dense, shadowy undergrowth near water, the kind of places where boots sink, light disappears, and birdwatchers question their life choices. It's a medium-sized heron with beautifully striped plumage that gives it the tiger part of its name, and a large white crest that it can raise into a full dramatic plume when startled or trying to impress, which is honestly always impressive, but good luck seeing one. This species is so cryptic that even lifelong birders may never encounter it in the wild. It stays motionless for hours, blending in with tree roots and shadowy trunks, moving only when absolutely necessary. Fun fact, the white-crested tiger heron is so rarely studied, we still don't know much about its breeding habits. Its nest has only been documented a handful of times. Some researchers have even admitted it's like trying to study a ghost that hates attention. It feeds mostly at night or dusk, stalking fish, frogs, insects, and small reptiles with slow, deliberate movements. Unlike flashy, wading birds that go for the big splash, this one prefers the slow-motion horror movie approach. Wait, stare, strike. Fortunately, it's not currently considered endangered, but it's listed as near threatened, primarily because of, you guessed it, habitat loss. Logging, swamp drainage, and road building push it further into isolation. And the more its forest disappears, the harder it becomes to even prove it still exists. So if you ever wander into a Congo swamp and feel like you're being watched, you might be. But don't worry, it's probably just the white-crested tiger heron judging you from behind a curtain of vines. Don't let the size fool you. The Aturi bodice may be tiny, barely the length of a smartphone, but it carries the attitude of a bird 5 times its size. Endemic to the Aturi forest in northeastern Congo, this little songbird is found nowhere else on Earth. And even within its limited range, it's incredibly hard to spot. It zips through the mid-level canopy, moving fast, flying low, and staying just ahead of any binoculars trying to follow it. Visually, it's striking. Slate gray upper parts, crisp white underparts, a bold black eye mask, and a small splash of yellow near the wings. It kind of looks like a superhero bird, if superheroes were extremely territorial and slightly aggressive. Here's the thing about Aturi batis. It does not like sharing. It's known for being fiercely territorial, especially during the breeding season. Even other batises, or birds that just look a little too similar, may get chased away with surprising intensity. Fun fact, its territorial call is a sharp, whistling pee-choo, repeated quickly in bursts. And if you play a recording of that call in its territory, it'll come zooming in, ready to fight. That's right, this bird will throw down with a speaker. Despite its boldness, Aturi batis is very poorly studied. Because it's so localized and shy, scientists still know very little about its nesting behavior, population trends, or migration patterns, if it migrates at all. Currently, it's not considered threatened, but with such a limited range and increasing deforestation in the Aturi region, the future isn't guaranteed. So if you're lucky enough to spot one and brave enough to play its call, don't be surprised if it stares you down from a branch with big, "You wanna go?" energy, small bird, big personality, classic Congo. Some birds impress with power, others with color. The gray-headed sunbird, it does both, but in a low-key, don't mind me, just saving the forest kind of way. This tiny nectar-feeding bird lives in the dense lowland forests of Central Africa, including parts of the Congo Basin. As the name suggests, it sports a soft gray head, but don't let that fool you. Its body shimmers with metallic green and yellow hues, flashing iridescence when the sunlight hits just right. It's basically a flying gemstone with a built-in straw. Sunbirds in general are Africa's version of hummingbirds, And while the gray-headed sunbird doesn't hover quite like a hummingbird, it's just as important to the ecosystem. Here's why. It's a key pollinator. As it dips its slender bill into tropical flowers for nectar, pollen sticks to its head and throat. When it moves to the next bloom, it transfers that pollen, keeping the forest's reproductive engine humming along. Fun fact, despite its beauty and ecological role, very little is known about the gray-headed sunbird. It was once lumped in with other species, but recent studies suggest it might be more genetically distinct than we thought. Yes, even in the bird world, DNA testing changes everything. It's mostly solitary or found in pairs, zipping between flowers, occasionally joining mixed species feeding flocks. Its call is a high-pitched tsetse, easily lost in the jungle's ambient noise. Currently, the species is not listed as threatened, but its dependence on undisturbed forest makes it vulnerable to logging and fragmentation. So next time you picture a hero of the rainforest, don't imagine a lion or a gorilla. Think smaller, think shinier. Think of a bird that pollinates trees one flower at a time without ever asking for credit. Most robins are friendly garden birds. The forest robin of Congo? It's a mystery wrapped in feathers and surprisingly good at starting taxonomic debates. This little bird lives in the undergrowth of Central African rainforests, including the Congo Basin, where light barely reaches the forest floor. It flits from shadow to shadow, its bright orange breast glowing like a tiny sunset under the canopy. But here's the fun part. What we call the forest robin is actually a group of similar-looking birds spread across Central Africa. And for years, scientists couldn't agree whether the Congo population was its own species, or just a regional remix. Some said it was Stiphrornis erythrothorax. Others argued for Stiphrornis pyrrolimus, a separate species found only in Congo. DNA tests didn't help much either. Basically, this bird is the ornithological equivalent of, are we dating or are we just cousins? Either way, the Congo forest robin is stunning. It has a golden orange breast, olive green back, and a clean white belly, like it dressed up for a wedding but didn't overdo it. Its song is soft and whistled, often heard at dawn, weaving through the forest like a warm breeze. Fun fact, because it sticks close to the forest floor and avoids open areas, even experienced birders can walk right past one and never know it was there. It's not shy, just strategically invisible. The Congo forest robin isn't currently endangered, but like many understory birds, it's highly sensitive to deforestation. Once the low vegetation goes, so does this robin's world. So if you're wandering through Congo's forests and hear a gentle, echoing whistle, pause. You might be standing just feet away from a bird that scientists still argue about. And frankly, it's too elegant to care. Some birds dazzle with color, others amaze with behavior. And then there's the spotted ground thrush, quiet, unassuming, and quietly disappearing. Found in small pockets of eastern and central Africa, this species has a subspecies unique to Congo, Geokichla gutata lipinsi. You won't find it in zoos, you won't find it on postcards, and odds are, you won't find it in the wild either. This bird spends most of its time on the forest floor, walking carefully among the leaf litter. Its brownish back and spotted chest help it blend perfectly with the dappled light of dense undergrowth. It doesn't sing often, it doesn't show off, it just survives, which honestly is getting harder. The Congo subspecies of the spotted ground thrush is one of the most threatened birds in Central Africa. Its population is thought to be extremely small, possibly fewer than a few hundred individuals. And the worst part? We don't even know for sure because it's so hard to study. Fun fact, in some areas this bird hadn't been recorded for over 30 years, until someone rediscovered a small population in the 2000s. It was one of those rare, wait, it's not extinct, moments in conservation. Unfortunately, habitat destruction continues at a rapid pace, especially in lowland evergreen forests, the exact kind this bird needs. Logging, farming, and infrastructure projects are carving up its already fragile home. Unlike other birds on this list, the spotted ground thrush doesn't have flashy colors, cool calls, or famous behavior. What it has is urgency, Because once this bird disappears, that's it. No flashy headlines, no big documentaries, just silence, where a songbird used to walk. So what have we learned? The Congo Basin isn't just a rainforest. It's a secret concert hall, a natural museum, and sometimes a fashion show curated entirely by birds. From invisible leaf impersonators to red-winged legends to saxophone-sounding swamp ghosts, these 15 species remind us of something important. Rarity is everywhere, but it's disappearing fast. Most of the birds we met today aren't famous. They don't trend on social media. They don't get cute merch. But they matter because each one is a living thread in the forest fabric. Lose them, and the whole system unravels a little. And maybe that's the real beauty of this list. Not just that these birds are exotic or unusual, but that they exist at all, in a world that's changing faster than their wings can carry them. So if this video brought you somewhere new, taught you something wild, or just made you say, wait, that duck size? Then do what birds would do, share it. Like, subscribe, drop a comment with your favorite bird, and hey, maybe support a conservation group while you're at it. Because the more we see, the more we care. And the more we care, the more chance these birds have to keep flying. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next rainforest.